Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. Indeed, it's good to be back after the unscheduled break of yesterday, because there had to be a sponsored program in this particular slot. Okay, because yesterday we talked about Reverend Jolly Nyame, sentenced to 14 years in jail. Essentially, it would have been to look at the case, how it had been coming for the past 11 years, and finally there was some sort of resolution, and then to get your input from home. The fight against corruption would indeed appear to be alive. Reverend Jolly Nyame, ex-governor of Taraba, was sentenced to 14 years for a whole slew of offenses that were just mind-boggling. Stationery, 250 million naira in the first instance. Follow that with another 50 million naira worth of stationery. How much are you going to write? What are you going to write? But it doesn't matter. It wasn't delivered, and that's just one of many, many of them. The judge decided, she exercised her prerogative, and she decided not to allow the option of a fine. And so the reverend gentleman, I suppose we still have to call him that, if all goes well, will be serving the next 14 years. To help us look at this, you got Malaki Ugomadu, President, Committee for the Defense of Human Rights. Thank you very much, as always, for coming on. And by the way, he's a legal practitioner as well, because I added that because I wonder, it just might be possible that a non-legal practitioner might one day become president. I don't know. I don't know what the book says. But it happens that right now, it coincides.
Dr. Bekora Sokuti.
There you go.
Professor
Thank
Yayi,
you very, very
these are
much.
the first two presidents of
so
they were not lawyers.
So I was good in saying that
Men
a legal practitioner as well. And then our friend Debo Crusader, Debo Adeniro, who is executive chairman, Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership, CACOL. As he was saying before we came on air, if you're old school, you will still think that CACOL means Coalition Against Corrupt Leaders. He says the mandate has expanded. It's been so since 2016. Debo, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. And I'm glad that you got that right. Yeah,
great to have you.
It's nice.
Let me start off with Malaki, you being a lawyer and all. This has been 11 years in the works. We know, those of us that are not learned, as you lawyers like to say, at least we know the sayings, that the wheels of justice sometimes grind very, very slowly. There is no alternative to it. But the thing grinded, and day before yesterday, in an epic, can I call it epic, 4-hour reading of her judgment, you know, she dropped that particular, I don't want to call it a bomb, but she made that pronouncement that the reverend gentleman was guilty. His lawyer, in a mitigation plea, had said the judge might want to take into consideration that he had served his people selflessly from 1999 to 2007. But of course, the EFCC, counsel responding to this said you can throw that out of the window. How can you talk like that? But then lawyers will do these kind of things. They will say those kind of things because it's their job, I imagine. One lawyer will say what he just said. The other lawyer will come and counter. That's all rule of law, and the judge is there to adjudicate. But why did it take 11 years to arrive at this conclusion?
Please, let me add that Debo is also a member of the board of trustees of CDHR. So
okay.
You can see how close
okay. So hope there are no incestuous aspect to this whole thing.
I'm also here.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
With my people. One of the cardinal principles of justice, as we put it in Latin, is odi autorem patem, hear the other side. It reinforces a major aspect of the fundamental right of every person, including the accused who is standing trial. Mm-hmm. The right to fair hearing. In effect, what it means is that however stupid, however irreconcilable, however inexplicable your defense are, you must be heard,
We must hear it.
just so that the standard of justice sought to be attained, which must be seen to be attained, will accommodate your own side of the story.
Mm.
The implication of that in a criminal proceeding is that you are at liberty to pursue that your right to fair hearing to any length. And at this point, it's therefore important to remind Nigerians that there were some aspects of that proceedings, of that hearing, that got up to Supreme Court.
Indeed.
Albeit,
And by the way, is it open to the Reverend Gentleman to appeal
oh, no,
to the Supreme Court?
this is a court of first instance.
Okay, so we can almost take it for granted that he's going to appeal.
What went on appeal and up to Supreme Court were on interlocutory matters.
Oh, okay, okay.
This is now the final judgment with respect to the charges against Reverend Yamen, and he reserved the right of appeal under section 241, 242, 243 up to Supreme Court. But what is the good news? The good news is that what happened yesterday rekindled the hopes of Nigerians that the fight against corruption may not be as fantastic as people would have wished. Again, because we are under a constitutional democracy where you need to balance the resentment of the people, of the government, against the right of even accused persons to also ventilate their own case. And what you have is a long 11-year trial that ended in conviction, one in which the trial judge refused to be persuaded by the plea of allocutors, by the defense counsel, to say you cannot juxtapose your plea that this man served his people meritoriously.
Yes, and selflessly.
And selflessly. And juxtapose that with my conviction based on credible, verifiable evidence that this man had also gone on this prey of looting and then ended up in a way that cannot be reconciled with a clergyman. Okay. All of those were said.
Indeed, it was. All of these were said. The judge, she was
reminding us of the judgment against James Ibori in a London court, where the prosecutor and the judgment came with a statement that I will never forget, because I'm from Delta State, to say that here was a man who knew nothing about government, but stole his way through the government house and emptied the treasury. Today, Ibori sits in the front seat during the 3rd anniversary of Delta State as a state. I was moved.
I was going to say that you know that there was great celebration when he arrived, and people from and people from Delta, some people from Delta were saying that, leave it, is it your money? It's our money. But that's a story for another aspect, another day. Debo, it's taken all of this time. The judge, among other things, referred to the imagery of Ali-Baba and the 40 thieves. She also, had said that, did she say? Yeah, that it was a criminal breach of trust.
Trust, yeah, that's right.
Criminal breach of trust.
That's right.
Now, she really, judges can do that when they want.
Exactly.
They concern themselves with the law. But now and again, the facts are such that they might make a comment here and there. And so it was very, very clear where, Justice Banjoko, I believe. Yes, Justice Banjoko. That she, I think, I read some reports that there were times when she would appear disdainful of the whole facts of the case. And that, now, how does this make you feel? Because you and your colleagues, not just CACOL, not
That's
just
right.
CDHR. There are other people that are concerned, that have concerned themselves, and we're about to give up. And Nigerians have been complaining. Now, this has been coming over a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I remember, was there a matter of 100 million naira to host President Obasanjo when he visited?
Yes,
There was
yes,
that whole
and
matter.
that was taken a day.
Yes,
Yeah.
for a one-day visit,
Yeah.
100 million, God knows how much was spent, but they somehow went and dragged the name of former President Obasanjo into it.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I was excited. You know, it was a lot of excitement when I heard that the Reverend Gentleman, in quotes.
Why are you putting it in quotes?
Because
They refer to them as Reverend
it
Gentleman.
wasn't no, Reverend is not in quote. It's the gentleman aspect of
Okay,
it.
all right.
Because a roguish reverend of whatever denomination it belongs should have been ostracized from that fold. I believe Khan will not only rally when it comes to some perception about what led to certain killings, they will also look inward
Yes.
at any criminally minded members of their own association should be removed, and the rest will be lessons to be learned.
Although I'm not sure
So
if you can strip a reverend. I know you can disrobe a lawyer, you can, you know.
No, he was,
But doctors themselves can be, you know.
It's also a professional calling. But what we need to look at is the significance of that judgment.
Okay.
To the extent that the judge summoned up adequate courage, that extra dosage of courage to slam maximum punishment on the
Thank you.
fellow.
Because it's the
Because
maximum allowed
if-
by the law of
maximum-
2007 under which he was
If she
charged.
has a way, she could have increased it.
Yes.
And that because 28 years that the man was given had to run concurrently.
Concurrently.
That's why we have 14 years. That is the longest that we have got.
No option of fine.
It's not because we have not gotten convictions before. Lucky Binedo of Edo State got 3 million naira.
He took the option of 3 million naira fine.
Yes, and he took that and he
And he's
paid
walking around
immediately
a
and
free
walked
man.
out a free man. Then James Ibori that had just been mentioned, which was our own project from the beginning to the end, you know, had to do his own service in the UK, even when Nigeria.
What service?
Prison
Serve
service.
his jail term.
His jail term service. Jail term service in the UK. But it's still, I mean, some other charges are awaiting him in Nigeria here. So these are the kind of things that will encourage judges to dispense justice, not just judgment. You know, to make justice what is supposed to be, you know, in favor of the society that requires it more, that is the ultimate victim of all these malfeasance that these people we entrusted with our mandate to spend money on our behalf have dashed. So when you say criminal breach of trust, it is the trust that the people of Taraba State gave to him as instrument of governing, spend the money on our behalf, but spend it judiciously on those areas that will satisfy the needs of the majority of our own people. But now, they said, I mean, the lawyer said, serve the place, I mean, the people meritoriously. What is merit when you help yourself to almost 2 billion naira of their hard-earned money? That amount of money could have established a standard hospital.
No, but you know, lawyers, I made the comment,
They want
lawyers
to-
will
yeah,
say those
yeah,
kind of
they
things.
want to say
You know,
something
and
just
the
to
other
be
lawyer
seen
is supposed to be alert
Exactly.
to know what to do.
So basically, the judgment, a part of the significance of it is that it's going to make those that are still serving as governors who thinks that they have all the powers, all the glory, all the influence to dip their hands into the state stills and help themselves to it, they will want to think twice. And those that are still on the line, they will know that it wasn't Uhuru for them yet. Sometimes they are not in a hurry to clear their name of all the charges because their lawyers have a way. Some of them have perfected the ways of circumventing the new administration of criminal justice law. But then
That's
all the
expertise.
same thing, whatever the case is, like you said earlier, the wheel of justice can grind so slowly,
sometimes.
but surely at the appropriate time, it's still going to get to its destination, the desired destination of the people.
Let me return with you, Malaki, to something Debo said at the beginning of his speech, that he was happy the judge in this case had summoned the courage. Now, that whole aspect, David was speaking advisedly because his experience, he's seen the way things have been going, and so he now mentioned the fact. How does this sit, especially when people from other climes, other areas of the world are reading about this, that the judge is being commended for being courageous to use the law, look at the evidence before her, and then slam, the case. What courage is needed there? I think that's a commentary in there. That the judge actually, that it became mentionable, that the judge actually found the courage.
This is a very tricky one. But it speaks to the climb that we find ourselves. Otherwise, it ought to be a straightforward answer. It is synonymous with the praises that our politicians do when they build roads, fix electricity,
yes,
and then provide some other.
They say the government is working.
Now, Section 15, subsection 5 of the Constitution makes it obligatory on the government of Nigeria to abolish all forms of corruption and abuse of power. Section 15, subsection 5, dealing with the fundamental objectives and directive principles of states. The judiciary is part of that government. The government comprises the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. And therefore, if the law falls on the judiciary to interpret the law and utilize concrete cases such as the one that has just been dispensed, applying the same law as they are, particularly the settled aspects of the law, against the facts, the cold facts, and the body of evidence that are before them, that judge has only done what he or she has vowed under oath.
Under oath.
To do.
Just like this Inyame.
Because
took an oath as well.
No person judges, mark my word, judges the judge. He only has his day with the Almighty Creator. And at the point where you fail or refuse to apply the laws to the facts as they are, particularly those before you, you would then come to terms with the aphorism that every person has got a sense of judgment based on his conscience.
Okay.
And you will live with that conscience until you answer to those judgments that you are giving.
I got to interrupt you now. Forgive me for doing so. We're going to go to a quick break so we can clean up the audio issues that you might be having. We'll be right back. Stay with us, please. Okay, welcome back. I think we sorted that out now. And as you know, we're talking about Reverend Jolly Yame being sentenced to 14 years in jail, and that's because the sentence is to run concurrently. Otherwise, it would have been 28 years. And there's a sense in which Justice Adebukola Banjoko, who, handed down this sentence, I imagine a lot of people must be looking at her as well, first of all, Debo thought she was a woman of courage, and that was what you were actually addressing. That why the need for courage? Yes, we first of all accept that because it's something that we haven't seen it speaks, doesn't it? It speaks to the situation we find ourselves in, as you said. Are they trying to? Okay, please go.
Well,
You're making the point that it speaks to the situation we find ourselves in Nigeria.
Yes, otherwise it ought not to be an issue of concern, because judges operate within the confines and remits of the law. They respond to the facts that are before them and applying the laws to those facts and come up with their own decisions.
That's the way it should be.
That's the way it should be. The reason why those comments are coming is because we've had instances in this country and in the past where it has become increasingly difficult for politically exposed persons to get the kind of justice that we're not having.
And that they deserve.
And that they deserve, which is serving the end of justice. So whoever superintends the affairs of those trials and bringing it to this kind of conclusion, particularly when you are talking of a trial of over a decade, you therefore will understand where the sentiment is coming from. Mark you, we've had cases, cases of politically exposed persons, particularly involving corruption and abuse of criminal abuse of public trust and so on and so forth. That look, the case of Chimaroko Namani is still on. The case of Ojus Okalo is still on. The case of course, this in Yame, and so on and so forth. These are cases that were instituted over 10 years ago. And so if you've had one or two, in respect of which you are now seeing a conclusive conclusion, a determinable conclusion, then it has a way of rekindling the hope of the people to say that, oh, wait a minute, I think the light is still at the end of the tunnel. And that if we keep at it and work diligently and give all the support in terms of the kind of energy that people are expressing now, chances are that we'll begin to change the narrative in which it has become almost a subconscious thinking that big men, in quotes, cannot be convicted in this country.
And why Reverend Jolly Nyame probably hits the news so forcefully is his calling, the fact that he is a man of the cloth, who also then went into politics. And one would have expected that no how, some of that calling will rub off in the way he conducts himself. The judge herself made this observation. No evidence of any such, so much so, in fact, so far away that she referred to the idiom of the 40 thieves.
Anyway, you see, what's...
sorry, sir.
Yeah.
I think this points to the complexity of the fight against corruption. You can't just look now and assume that because the person is a ne'er-do-well, because the person has very little education or very whatever, that, those are the kind of people that are likely to be corrupt. Apparently, the whole spectrum, it's the entire spectrum now. It doesn't matter who you are. The virus is all pervading, so much so that even men of the cloth cannot resist the temptation, although they will come and teach you how to resist temptation in your own life.
Now, that is where the courage of the judge came in, because it takes an extra dosage of courage to resist the temptation to succumb to the pressure of corruption. Because anybody that's got to a position of power, a position of authority, through corruption, we want to sustain himself in that position by corruption. And
forgive me for interrupting. I'll come right back to you. A call has coming from Jalingo, in Taraba State. Good morning. Jalingo in Taraba. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. Thank you very much for calling in.
There's no problem. So thank you, sir.
Go ahead, please.
Uncle Yori, I just something very realistic about this. What is going on in Nigeria is it's a total shame, and we are in a sham. The free of every Nigerian should be heard. I am not saying the conviction that was actually delivered on the former governor of Taraba State was right or wrong. But let's be realistic about this. Many things are wrong. And if it's not addressed, I'm sorry for Nigeria. Uncle Yori, thank you so much.
Would you like to explain what you mean?
Very, very good work. Let Nigeria be, and peace is going to reign in Nigeria. Thank you so much, and God bless you, sir.
Well, okay. Thank you. Thank you for that cryptic remark. I wish you would have explained, but the point he seemed to be making was that there's a heck of a lot that is wrong with Nigeria. I don't want to enter the realm of speculation and begin to guess what he meant by that, but you heard what he said.
Maybe he was saying that the man ought to have gotten a better conviction than he got, because some of even the charges that were thrown out could have been probed a little further, and conviction could have been achieved on that.
It's possible. But
the truth is that when you
I'm going
look
to interrupt you again, because Reverend Dominic has called in now. Good morning, Reverend.
Good morning, Chief Yori.
Sorry, your Reverend.
Barrister, good morning.
Good morning, Reverend.
Good morning, your colleague here too.
Good morning.
This judgment a few days ago gave me much role in judiciary. Number two, you also a sad one to me for a reverend gentleman who we think that if you have done better in governance has caught up with it. Has got the hand of God is in it to teach most of us preachers that it's easy to criticize, to refer to you, it's easy to get to office too, but to maintain integrity is not that easy. That's a good one. And that gives us hope with someone like Ojikalu, with someone like Nadoja, with someone like the brother in Namani. All of them is also in the line. But my pain is this, and I want to advise the ruling party. Dr. Ojikalu jumped from APP, PDP to APC. Just to say this thing. I'm watching that judgment to see if you have the color of compromise of the house, or you have the color of good judgment. Number two, Yori, I'm still holding judiciary, not in high esteem, for one thing. Ask me why. There's a man who governed River State from 1999 to 2007. That man went to court and stopped the whole judiciary, refusing to allow him to open the boot for the government to see, or for the people himself to see whether he did well or not. I am sure you know who I'm talking about. The first governor in 1999 of River State. And he went to court and get injunction that nobody should try him for Governor River State for those 8 years. If judiciary could revise themselves on it, I think they have filed the right path. And I give them kudos. And I know there's hope in Nigeria. And we shall live. But we shall live to see the good governance we are advocating for years in the name of the law.
Thank you very much, Reverend Dominic. Now, Debo, I'm not going to interrupt you anymore.
Okay. Anyway, what I believe has made the judgment possible is the enabling environment where the CJN has given free hand to judges to dispense justice, just justice, not ordinary judgment. Because judgment has become merchandise in several courts now. And that is why a couple of judges are either being prosecuted or under investigation. So
isn't that a problem, what you just said?
It is a problem.
That the CJN has given the judges a free hand.
Yes,
there are implications to that statement.
You see, we witness a lot of things. I should tell you, the case of Ibori that he mentioned earlier was our project. We started since Ibori was charged in Kaduna. And Ibori's supporters actually fought our own people and we were injured. Secondly, I was to be kidnapped even in Delta State and all that. So a lot of things went into it. As the case went on in the court of Mr. Justice Awukuleyin, we were observing and we were feeding the then NJC back. The NJC issued at least 4 queries to the trial judge, Awukuleyin. Okay, queries. And he could not deliver. That was why he could not deliver his judgment. He had to postpone delivery of his judgment about 3 times, saying that he wanted to err on the side of caution. Okay, while we were feeding the NJC back, and the then CJN was also there. At the end of the day, they said our petition, our observation in that court was lacking in merit. It is the same set of, charges that the same man pleaded guilty to in the United Kingdom. Now, what Ibori wanted to prove was that he didn't steal in Delta State. Now, the question in the UK court was that if you didn't steal, how come that all of these 4 people that were previously jailed in the UK, how come they got money from you to transport to London to the UK? So, but what Masaya Awukuleyin did was to clear him of stealing charges. But money laundering charges that were part and parcel of the case in Nigeria was the reason why he was convicted yonder. So that is why I'm saying that. It means that Awukuleyin couldn't have had free hand to operate.
Okay.
And if there
Possibly.
was
Possibly.
I also said
yes. I want to bring in Divine in Apapa, and thank you for holding on. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Chief Okwin.
Thank you very much for calling in, Chief. Please go ahead. Divine. Hello. Oh, there's a technical issue, I'm sure. But the networks can be one kind. Malaki, the point.
Hello.
Oh, Divine, go on. Good morning.
Yes. The issue is that in Nigeria did not convict all these people that steal our government money. When God will pass the judgment on them, God will forgive Sodom and Gomorrah, but will not forgive them. Because these people know the law, they know what.
I'm sorry, Divine. The line is not good. We simply can't hear. Maybe try to connect again. Let's see if it'll be better. Thank you very much.
Also, when you look at the face of judiciary in Nigeria, you know that hardly does any judge operate the way the law and the oaths of office, allowed them to operate.
Okay, Debo, you have said that, and it's your prerogative. Malaki, if I ask him to comment on that,
because you see, when people say,
because I don't know, maybe
that the authorities lose cases, you don't expect the president by, dictatorship to say that, oh, please just take this fellow to jail. No, it has to pass through. And if the judges don't want the cases delayed for as long as they have been delayed, there is a way they will have been able to ensure that the ACJA is made operative. But what you find, even today, is that you have people circumventing the course of justice by ensuring they create that loophole under which the dispensation of justice will be delayed unending.
Comments, Malaki.
Let's put this in
perspective
a bit and see whether we can properly understand it. Now, the Ibori case you talked about didn't go to trial. I'm talking of in London, where he was eventually convicted. What Ibori did was, indeed, his lawyers advised him that given the body of evidence that is already front-loaded and confronting us, there was no need professionally to be against us to proceed with your defense in the face of this character of evidence before you. It will therefore be in your interest to first appreciate that you are not in Nigeria or in any other African country, Nigeria in particular. It will be most strategic in your own interest and considering the implication of dragging the Queen, the almighty state of United Kingdom into this trial. One, the resources of the state will be used. Two, the time, precious time, will also be expended. Therefore, the option you have is to consider the plea bargain option. This was what exactly happened.
Indeed.
And once it happened, he bagged the sentence that he had. And for the records, you know, I took my daughter to the Nigerian Institute for International Affairs only 2 days ago, or was it yesterday? 2 days ago, where Kunle Ajibade, one of the foremost journalists in this country, who was jailed for life by General Abacha, was celebrated his 60th birthday anniversary. And I told her about the virtues and characters and principles that can shape the life of a nation through somebody. And this was one good example of that. As I told her, this is concluding, that I would have loved one day to take you to a prison where my former governor was serving his sentences as a former governor for looting, so that in your memory, you can easily juxtapose what it is to live by. And that was quite instructive for her as we left.
A quick one before I leave you. The Ibori's lawyer said to Mr. Ojo, he must have taken cognizance of the evidence before the court to actually plead for mitigation, for mercy. That is as it is. This matter, he probably will exercise his right to go to the Supreme Court. The fact that the lawyer in this lower court had actually gone as far as pleading for mercy, surely the lawyer knows it's a hopeless case.
It doesn't exclude the possibility of an appeal.
I see.
It doesn't also foreclose the constitutional right that he has. More so with these people of means. There is enough to throw in the works and ensure that you test the law all through to the Supreme Court. Don't forget that what took them there in the first place were issues of interlocutory applications. And now that the judgment has been concluded fully and finally,
with begging for mercy that was ignored by the judge,
of course.
Now you go to the Supreme Court.
You couldn't have encouraged the court to give the maximum judgment. You will always do that. As a matter of course.
Adigun in Abeokuta, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Chief Yori.
Please go ahead. Good morning, sir.
Yeah. My question is to the learned man over there. I want to know the status of the issue regarding the Reverend Jolie that recently sentenced. Assuming that he appealed the case now, is he going to be running the sentence now, or until when the case finishes at the Court of Appeal, or take it to the Supreme Court?
Okay.
What is the status now?
Okay. Are you asking whether he's a free man until it is determined at the Supreme Court?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
And what is the status of the case with Peter Odili of River State?
I'll see if memory serves them. Maybe answer that legal question.
Well, there are two questions.
Yes, but the first one, which is more of the law.
Well, if I'm asked to deal with the first one, what he wants to know is what is his status. His status as of today is that he's an ex-convict who has been sentenced to imprisonment without an option of fine.
He's an ex-convict.
He's an ex-convict. He has been convicted.
So he's a convict.
He's a convict.
Not ex-convict.
Oh, he's a convict.
He's a convict.
He's a convict.
Yes.
Who has been sent to prison.
Okay.
And he has been rerouted into the other prison.
Yes.
He can't bring applications, multiple applications. Yes. Indeed.
But he will remain there.
He will remain there.
All those applications.
You can apply for bail pending appeal.
Okay.
These are permissible, but you must meet the standards, which are usually very high.
Very, very high.
It's not a matter of course.
Okay.
Secondly, for as long as your appeal goes on, if you are unable to secure that bail, you will remain there.
Okay.
These are the merits of the struggle.
Okay. Mr. Adigun, I hope that satisfies you. Any information on Peter Odili that Mr. Adigun wanted to know about?
Okay, the EFCC has appealed the
Correct.
case.
That's the
Okay, so it's the appellate court that we are appealing to dispense with the appeal on time.
I think the worry of the Nigerian people is that how is it that such an application that was granted as at the time the investigation kicked off could still be a subject of discussion up to this moment. But that is where we are.
About the same time, about 11 years.
And you
all
know,
that, and still going.
people keep mentioning about this case. If you understand the trajectory, if you understand the trajectory of this case, you would find that it was instituted way before the Administration of Criminal Justice Act came into effect. And when people speak to the courage, in quotes, of these courageous jurists,
yes,
you will understand what they are saying, because there were quite a number of loopholes available to the defense to truncate that trial. The fact that they remained and pursued it up to this moment.
There are a couple of courageous
Maxwell
judges
in Ghana. I'll come to you. Good morning, Maxwell.
Good morning, Chief.
Good morning, sir.
And good morning to the other gentlemen.
Good morning, sir.
You see, Uncle Yori, I would like to say here now is that Nigeria is becoming a state where abnormalities are regarded as normal things. In the law, like Ibori was sentenced in London, which could not happen in Nigeria. The lawyers and the judges over there, they knew the consequences and the gravity of the offense they had committed. They advised him, and he received the advice and went in for plea trial. Coming to Nigeria, what stops them from telling him to stop? Like in Nigeria, like in Ghana here, it took only 3 or 4 years to jail and lawyers that were found wanted during the Anas issue here. Why is this keeping so long in Nigeria? Thank you and have a great day.
Indeed, thank you.
And that is the reason why we actually recommended, I hope it's not going to be a constitutional matter, that any lawyer, any judge that explore the benefit of all of these loopholes or find a way of circumventing the course of justice and allow criminal elements to go scot-free, when found guilty, should be treated as accomplices. It doesn't matter what they say, what they claim. They may say we are doing our job and all that. But as long as they know that the fellow actually committed the offense, that is where the courage comes into play. The lawyers must have the courage.
Yeah, but a judge can't know that an offense was committed.
No, there are some of them.
Apart from the evidence before him or her.
I agree with you. There are some people who will discredit even credible evidence deliberately because it's in their court and they have the powers. But you know that Nigeria is not lacking in courageous judges.
But we can't say that. We can't say that because judges are not expected to behave like that.
Just leave it. They are not expected to. That's where we are saying that when they are found guilty, that there should be the agencies should perpetually play oversight functions on the, on these courts, so that when they deliberately discredit what is supposed to be credible, then they will be taken on. Then when you look at Dolapo Akinson here, that declared that the interim national, what do they call it now?
Interim national
government of Shonekan was illegal. It took a dosage of courage to do that. Justice Lubumi Oyewole was in Lagos here, and he did several, groundbreaking judgments. And everybody knew that it took extra dosage of courage to do that. Because when you look at your colleagues, other colleagues that are able to draw illicit funds from these criminals, and you resist that temptation. You resist the temptation, and you risk the jeopardy that it could befall you while moving on the road. Because these people are very safety.
Yakub, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Thank you for calling.
And then good morning, Mr. Adini, and then Dr. Gumadu.
Good morning.
Yeah, thank you. Usually, I'm very, very happy that this judgment goes where it is. And then there is a lot of things to learn about this very good judgment. And then I believe history will never forget Justice Banjoko.
Yeah.
And then two things that we need to learn about this judgment is that, one, the rest of the judge in the country that they are in possession of trying all these corrupt fellow human beings in this country, they should take positive out of this very particular judgment. That you are
Yakub?
you are a God with a small letter G. That whatever the judgment you give, that is the final, or else the person appeal to the Supreme Court. And then the remaining people that corrupt in this country, that is a big message to them that you can never.
Okay, the network is giving us problem. Well, one just hopes that all of this will serve us as an example and sort of guide us as to how to behave. But I don't know that I'm holding my breath.
He's telling our leaders that the era of sacred cows is moving away, even if it's gradual. Larger than life image that they carry all about.
We have to see if what Justice Banjoko has done catches on.
You know,
we shouldn't be too hasty.
This has been a struggle, that is unfolding on so many fronts. And at every curve and turn, it has taken men of conscience and courage and conviction to deal with the exigencies and peculiarities of those moments. There were moments in this country when our headache was to secure our independence, political and economic.
That's right.
It took men of courage and vision to step in and rise to the occasion. And we remember them for that. Posterity will continue to remember them as far as history remains. There were moments when we had the military, Nigerian military, running riot in this country. Indeed, running amok. We even have some of them demented. Look, my word is used carefully because we were directly affected. I went to university, all through my stay in the university, it was military government. When I was in the University of Nigeria, and we had a sole administrator, in Ahmadu Bello University, Major General Kantangora was imposed there as the sole administrator. A soldier by orientation, by training, coming to superintend the affairs of an academic environment where plurality of views.
It reminds me of what Maxwell has said,
so
that abnormality appears to come to normal.
It took
in
people.
Nigeria.
I just mentioned Kule Ajibade, among so many, and so on and so forth. So now we dealt with impunity. Today, there is also the challenge of the judiciary and the polity at large. People are rising to the occasion.
Okay, let me take Bamidele, and thank you very much for holding on. I wanted Mr. Ugumadu to land. Good morning, Bamidele, in Benin.
Good morning.
Yeah.
Hello?
Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I want to agree with Debo here, but I just hope that this thing should cut across everybody, because I am saying that I agree with Debo that the living environment allows the justice to be dispensed this way.
Yes.
But I will wish that it should cut across everybody. It shouldn't be one ethnic group.
He's listening to.
Don't worry, just continue. Continue speaking.
Okay, I will wish that it cut across all the sets of these people, the ethnicity. It shouldn't be a witch hunting thing. Because there are several people, several other ex-governors that are in this shoe. But the case has not been thrashed out. It's been lingering. I think they should come up and do something about it. Oh. And it is part of the deterrent to other people who want to go into government. Thank you.
Thank you very much for calling in, Bamidele. But where does ethnicity or religion come into matters of justice?
I think it's, a number of Nigerians are victims.
Because that seems to be his concern.
Are victims of stereotype.
Okay.
And believing that the government of the day has a say.
Oh, okay. You know, it never occurred to me.
So
him being a reverend gentleman and all of that.
And all of
come
that.
on.
So
come on.
that is the problem. And that is why we said that the enabling environment, because hitherto, if you listen even to these leading politicians that are criminal suspects, they will tell you that it's because they belong to the opposition party. That is why they are being hunted, even when they know that they have unassailable, evidence against them. Now, why should they be accusing the ruling party or the president or anybody if they think that the principle of separation of power is operative?
Is intact.
It is because that was the way they ruled the country when they were in the side.
We will challenge you to go to court.
Mazi Okora for good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Sir Yuri. Good morning, Mr. Aaron, and good morning, Mr. Malaki.
Good morning.
Nigeria is a rich country, but the people there are poor and irony. See, 14 years or no 14 years, not the father from Mr. Malaki. What happened to the money in question? And what happened to the project supposed to secure the money based on the judgment?
It's to be forfeited. To be forfeited to the state of Taraba.
But our judiciary is too slow because 11 years to investigate the case to try against it. Now, if this is happening in China, you know how to pray. Now, man of God, people talk about man of God, that you went to a seminary, graduate as a seminary, and you have been given a degree or anything now, does not make you to be a reverend. Now, when we talk about reverend, people consider the bishop reverend. It's when you're going to ordain in the service of God to be preaching. That's when you call yourself a reverend. That you went to a seminary does not warrant you to be. That is the preaching we have now. Anybody that enters to the seminary as a secondary, as a higher institution, he comes out and starts wearing collar. People start addressing that person, man of God, man of God. When he commits anything outside as a man of God, they say, look at what the reverend. That let us identify which one is a reverend and which one is a seminarian. Thank you very much. I have a pleasant day in Lagos. Happy weekend, everybody.
Indeed. Thank you very much.
As a matter of fact, most of these people that are under investigation or under trial, they are either Christian or Muslims. Okay? You hardly find those who don't have religion among them. Somebody may be an Alhaji, another will be an Afa. Even the criminal, what do you call it, ritual killing, kidnapping, and all of them are either Christian or Muslim. So nobody should raise the issue of religious bias or ethnicity. It doesn't even have color. It's not ethnicity, color, not nothing. Maybe the experience they had in the past is what is still running riots in their memory.
Okay.
But we believe that things are changing.
The money is to be forfeited because that came up to Taraba State. The judge made that point. So this money has been frozen, I imagine, since all of this
that
time.
That is the way to go.
Yes.
Even the Bori case we keep talking about, they were also to be forfeited to the Delta State government. But I think my own takeaway, if you don't mind,
Yes, because we're going to have to leave it here.
Is that one is that first, the lesson is that the rope, does not make the monk.
The rope does not make a monk.
Nigerians will continually, remain vigilant and circumspect because we're in very trying times. Secondly, is that there is no time limit within which criminal matter can be tried.
Exactly.
These people.
Thankfully, no statutes of limitation
These people had immunity as governors, as presidents. But by and large, if we remain focused on this fight against corruption, chances are that we'll continue to gather our evidence and then deal with the situation and conclude it one way or the other.
Indeed, that is indeed the hope, that this will give us some sort of traction to resolve these matters one way or the other.
I need to add that the anti-corruption agencies should up their games. They should go beyond the governors. They should go after former presidents who have charges of corruption or allegations of corruption against them. They should do due diligence investigation.
But the same thing applies. That Malek has just said, no statute of limitation applies.
Yes, so but they should do it on time because they claim that justice delayed is justice denied.
Okay.
They should not deny our society the deserved justice.
Thank you very much,
It's my
Mr.
pleasure.
Debo Adeniran, Executive Chairman, Center for Anti-Corruption and Open Leadership,
That's
CACO,
what we-
formerly
thank you
known
very
as CACO.
Formerly known as Coalition Against
No,
Corrupt Leaders.
it's
It's still CACO.
it's still CACO.
CACO, formerly known as CACO, yeah, since 2016.
And thank you very much, Mr. Malaki Ugumadu, President CDHR.
my president.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for airing your perspectives on this whole matter. And that's our program for the day and week. We'll be back together on Monday, God willing, with a fresh edition. I'm Yori Folani. Do have a great weekend.